Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you guys? Okay. Shall we start? Because we already in the 9 in the morning. I should expect more crowd for today, but it looks like everyone are basically taking a lift. Since it's the school break, right? But it's okay. Before we going to start, let me introduce myself first. My name is Wan Ruzana. I'm the trainer for today. I'm one of the staff from the Teaching and Learning Center. For today's sessions, since all of you here are basically my colleague, considering, and then I'm not going to call it as a training for today. It's more towards sharing sessions for the classroom training. Before we're going to start with our slide, let me have some ideas. I do believe all of you here are basically been teaching before, right? Have experience in the classroom with the students and so on and so forth. Am I right? Yes, yeah. No? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So like I said, since all of you, including me, we are basically teachers, a lecturer. So it's more towards sharing sessions rather than a training for you. I mean, like it's a training, which is compulsory for you, are basically to sit for the training. But then we're going to get through everything. We're going to finish up whenever that we're able to finish up. And then whenever that you need to stop me saying that, Zana, that you have to slow down a bit, we doesn't catch you and so on and so forth, go ahead and do it. I'm going to slow down and get back to you whenever you have a questions. Is that going to be okay with you guys? Okay. And again, like I said, since it's going to be online training, I know some of you are basically still working at home and so on and so forth. I don't make it any compulsory for you to open the camera. It's up to you. Whenever that you need to go for a quick toilet break or quick things, go ahead and do it. Okay, cool? All right. So let's start with what we have today. Give me a second. Okay. Asset trip for the classroom management and practices. Okay, when we talk about the classrooms, right? Classroom is basically quite common for us who already been a teacher. One of our what we call it struggle when come to the classroom is basically how we're going to manage it. Okay, when with the students and the current generations basically and their behavior and so on and so forth. But then what I'm going to touch for today is basically the basic concept on how we're going to make it happen every single time we have to deal with this group of students, especially on the current generations. Okay, so what is a teacher? Everyone know who is a teacher. This is basically a quick snapshot what the different things we are every single time that we introduce ourselves and they ask what you are doing at the moment. I am teaching, I'm doing a lecturing and so on and so forth. But then the actual task that we do is basically more than a teaching, right? We're not just a teach, we are also the one who doing everything behind it, which is the marking paper, the exam, dealing with the student, somehow have to entertain them whenever they have a problem, and so on and so forth. They are more rather than just teaching the class, but more towards a dealing with the students on it. Okay, objective for the today's topic is basically to identify the teacher characteristics, component in the classroom management, and also to apply different classroom management style. I do believe since all of you are basically a teachers, which is a lecturer, you guys might going to have a specific approach when come to the teach in the class, right? So because like I said, we are basically handling more than one people when it come to the classroom. So what I believe when come to the teaching is basically every teachers, every lecturers, they have their own approach. Somehow your approach might going to be different than mine, but whatever it was, whenever it works for you, you are basically allowed to do so. Okay, identify student behavior and also the proper actions. Okay. This is basically one of this quick sharing Padlet that I wanted you to give and share with us. What was the characteristic of the effective teacher that you might going to have come across in a mind? Maybe you're going to say the effective teachers or teaching is basically he or she have to do this and so on and so forth. I wanted to get some ideas from you. Perhaps those ideas might going to be good for everyone of us here for today's sessions. Maybe, do you mind? It's going to direct you to the Padlet. So I'm going to open the Padlet shortly. Okay, let's see what you guys have an idea on. Oh, I didn't see any yet. Okay, give me a second. Maybe. Engaging very well. Oh, it looks like I don't have to do the training with you guys for today because you are basically better than what the new teacher should. You are not a new teachers, obviously. Okay, what else? Prepare, definitely, right? Like for me, myself, even though I have more than 10 years teaching experience, every single time that I need to come to the class, I will get myself prepared. Facilitate the discussion, yes, this is basically one of the things that are basically for in order to handling the current generations, to get them engaging in your class is basically one of the hardest thing to do. Compare then, this is the thing that I always discuss with my colleague, saying that, okay, in order to deal with this current generations, we are basically need to do a different approach, saying that because these students are basically more towards the technology people. Encourage all ideas, definitely discussions. Someone who can elicit conversations on the topic, definitely, right? So most of the time what we wanted to, as a teacher, is basically to get everyone's attentions in the class, to get them discussed and facilitate accordingly. All right, do we have more? Anyone? Oh, okay, cool. So that's a quite good things when come to the what we call as a characteristic of the effective behavior. Okay, we're going to move to our slides next. Okay, effective classroom management. Okay, like I said, whenever that you guys need to stop me, go ahead and stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to go through. Okay, most of the slides is basically more towards the reading. Whenever you need the slide for your own reference, you can always ask from the TLC, the teaching and learning member. I'm going to send the slide to the specific person and pass it to you whenever you need it. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Okay, purpose. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, purpose, cultivate appropriate behavior, correct inappropriate behavior, and prompt trust, friendship, and accountability, and enable effective teaching and also learning. When we talk about being a teachers, right? Definitely, our task is basically to deliver effective learning experience to the students. But then more of it is basically for us to do what we're going to do in order to get them learn in the class. And not just that, it's basically to handling their behavior. So seek effective for the classroom management that we might going to suggest you is basically first is establish positive relationship among the student. This is quite a common to understand, right? Obviously, within the student, we're going to have what we call as a favorite lecturer, non-favorite lecturer, and so on and so forth. It's quite common for the student, for me to understand. It's quite common for the student to have that kind of the non-favorite and favorite and so on. In order for us to be a favorite, what we can suggest is basically to establish the relationship with the students. So means how you're going to cater them, how you're going to get them to have more interactions with you and so on. Prevent attention seeking and work avoidance behavior among the students, which is the manners that we might going to have while dealing with the student in the classroom, and quickly and Sorry? Okay, can you see my slide? What was it? Oh, okay. You didn't see my slide? Anyone? Can? Okay. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, sorry. Okay, then stop persistent and chronic misbehavior with strategy that are simple enough to be used consistently. When we talk about how we're going to deal with the student behavior, some of the students might going to have very what we call as a chronic behavior, means they are not going to listen to you at all. They simply just come to the class because they need to come to the class. They need to take the attendance, but once they are basically sitting in the class, they are not paying attention to you at all. So how are we going to manage these students? Like I said, as a teacher, our suggestions is basically to have a positive approach to the students all the time. If you need to turn the classroom into another more interesting settings, go ahead and do it. Whatever that might going to suit the subject that you're going to teach, so go ahead and do it. Okay, some of us might going to say that, okay, my topic is basically more toward theoretical parts. They have no practical assessment going to be done in this classroom. So how I'm going to make it happen? We have all the technology to be used in order to make the classroom more interesting at the moment. Okay, then teach a self-control instead of the punishments. Okay, we don't punish the students. Somehow, yes, we might going to see we need to punish the student. But if you can avoid the punishments and teach them more toward the self-control, it's more preferable toward the approach. And respect cultural differences. Cultural differences, as being a Malaysian residing in this country, we learn that we are coming from a different background. Even our student itself, not just coming from the Malaysian as a Malaysians, but coming from a different country and residing as a student. So yes, most of the time, definitely, that's the things that we need to do when come to the controlling them in the class, to respect where they're coming from and what they believe on. Teachers and leaders. When we talk about the teachers, who is the teachers? They are basically the leaders in the classroom. Okay, so we are basically the one who give a command in the class. So the leadership, when we talk about the leadership, they have a different approach on the style of the leadership. First, we call it as a legitimate leadership. A student show respect because you are a teacher, obviously. Okay, every single time that you walk into the class, student need to show you respect. Why? Because you are a teacher. Reward leadership. Reward is the form of privilege, title, and responsibility because you get the title as a lecturer. Hence, it's considered as a reward leadership. Hence, the students need to respect you. Then we also have a reference leadership, the teacher who exhibit value such as caring, fairness, and trustworthiness. And also we do have expert leadership, teachers who show enthusiasm and confidence in the teaching. Okay, so this is a type of the leadership teaching that we have. But then the most that we wanted you to focus is basically the bottom two, which is the reference leadership and expert leadership, the one who can be a reference for a student. So means whenever they need it, they're going to look at you as a good teacher, as a good leader. And also expert leadership, which is the one who are very knowledgeable. They are basically well known about every single thing they're teaching in the class. Whenever the student asks the question, that you are able to answer accordingly based on based on your expertise. Then classroom climate is basically some of the ideas that we might going to suggest to you in order to handling the classroom. So when we talk about the students, like I said, in a group of students, which is you are teaching a group of students in the classroom, some can be a big classroom, some can be a small classroom. They have a group of the student that might going to be divided into the classroom. So how are you going to make it happen in order to get everyone attention while you have been teaching in the class? We call it as a competitive, cooperative, and individualistic group. Competitive students compete for the right answer among themselves. Cooperative student engage in the discussions, and individualistic student complete the assignment by their own. So means in the classroom assessment, it can be done in the several method and also approach. So means you can do a group discussions, You can do individual games, or maybe you're going to do a discussion saying that engaging discussions, you ask the question, then the student need to answer accordingly throughout the session. So that's how you are basically able to get their attention throughout the classes. Let's say your classroom need to run up until 2 hours or 3 hours. So you make sure that the students are basically pay attention throughout the sessions. Like I said, for the practical classes, for the hands-on classes, they have, most of the time, they have no issue to get the student engaged because they need to do a task. But then the challenging part is basically come when you are handling the theory classes, because the current student generations, their attention is basically not going to last more than half an hour, but you need to run a 2-hour classes. You need to run 3-hour classes. Their attention only limit between 30 minutes. So what going you to do after the 30 minutes? So they have perhaps exercising, perhaps some fun learning sessions in the classroom. So that's what we can do it in order to get back the attention. Perhaps you can give 10-minute breaks to them, saying that, okay, I'm giving you 10-minute breaks. Go ahead and do whatever you want and come back. Then I hope that you're going to have a full attention again after the breaks. Then for classroom, groups and also individuals, students compete with each other to get the correct answer during their turn. When it comes to the group, each subgroup compete for the same task, and individual all compete the answer for the same questions, which is like you are giving a task, a quiz in the class, group assignments. So that's all basically all the assessment that you might going to have throughout the classroom activity. An effective teacher and can control the mood of the classroom in a different social climates to maximize the engagement and minimize the disruptions. So this is basically the best approach that you can do, saying that the best thing that you can do is, in order to get the student attention throughout the class session, is basically to change the mood of the class accordingly. Because as a teacher, you are the one who lead the classroom. You can see the environment. You can feel the environment of your students, saying that, okay, they start to get boring. They start not paying attention. So flip the classroom, turn the classroom into the something that more interesting for them. Okay, so that's how you're going to able to catch their attention every single time. Okay, physical arrangement in the classroom. We can see they have a different suggestions that we can do when come to the classroom activity, saying that most I can say most of the classroom that we have in the UOW is either going to be going to be a traditional classroom, or even slightly a group classroom, depending on which classroom that you might going to have to done your lecture here. But then, like I said, they have no harm at all. Once in a while, you might going to able to turn the classroom into the Hoshu session, which is, if you are doing so, you are going to be sitting in front of them and become the center of the attention. So that's basically how you are able to get their attention throughout the test session, rather than you focus on the traditional classroom. Yes, perhaps the students that might going to sit in the front row only able to get the thorough attentions for the classroom. But like I said, residing in this building that we have in the UOW, I can understand most of our classroom have been designed either traditional and a group classroom, but then no harm at all. Once in a while, you might going to say, oh, I wanted to change the classroom setting for today's sessions. Can I do it? The answer is yes, you are always welcome to do it. But right before you finish your class, perhaps you might need to get your student to rearrange back the setting in how it used to be. Okay, cool, teacher? Okay, classroom rule, main purpose to minimize the work engagement, promote safety and security, and avoid inconvenience to other users, to encourage appropriate social interactions. Okay, so do we need to set up these classroom rules? Most of the time, not necessary. Okay, not necessary as a teacher. Why? Because knowing about the students, the more rules that you have to them, the more discouraged they can be when come to the classes. So, but then we do what we call as a specific room as a teachers and also learners. As a teacher, we wanted to have, whenever that we do the classes, we wanted to maximize all the engagement throughout the sessions. So if we have a 2 hours class session for the class, at least 1.5 hours is basically a good engagement session. Maybe another half an hour is basically individual tasks and so on and so forth. So that's what we wanted to have throughout our classroom sessions. Make sure the rules are consistent with the classroom climate, enforceable and general, but understand the rules is not practical. Teacher play favor in refunding the violator and teacher fail enforce it firmly. Okay, like I said, you can set up a rules in your classroom if you want to, not an issue, but like I said, the current generations of the student that we have, the more rules that you're going to put on them, the more discouraged they can be. So, like what I said, pandai-pandai, okay? You can set up a rule, but as much as you can, minimize them. Problem areas in the classroom, 4 areas to pay attention to maintain the student engagement or monitoring the students, able to read the situation in the room. Okay, like I said, most of us in today's session is not a new teacher. Okay, we've been teaching quite a good years, dealing with the different student group behavior and so on and so forth. Somehow when we step into a classroom, we can feel the environment already. We can feel that the students are basically ready. Or maybe we can feel that the student is not ready. They just come to class because they need to get the attendance and so on and so forth. So what you can do is basically to change the environment accordingly as what you need for the students. Okay, maintain the eye contact with the student and shift the lecture to Q&A, question and answer, when the students start to lose focus. Maybe not a Q&A, maybe you can do a Q&A, question and answer session if you want to. Maybe some more interactive activity that you can done. Okay, interactive. So means if you find out the student are keep on looking at their phones all the time throughout the sessions, maybe you can do something, activity that related to the phone, the online learning, the YouTube sessions, the video sessions, whatever that you can done in order to attract back their attention. Do not talk with the back facing the student, only looking at one student and to the window and chilling. This is basically quite common to happen as a teachers, right? When we find out in a group of the students in the classrooms, is only 1 or 2 of them are basically paying attention. The rest of them just do whatever they want be at the back of the classroom. So since only 2% are basically paying attention, we as a teacher, we are only focused for the 2. That's 2 that pay attention. Can we do that? The answer is no, we can't. Why? You are not only have those 2 students are learning in your classroom, you're going to deliver to everyone in the classroom, either they are paying attention or not. So what you can do, again, like I said, turn the class into something more fun as you need to, okay? Making transitions, main interruption, student talking loudly, socializing and lagging in a previous activity. So the main reason why students are start to talk in your class is basically, obviously, they start losing focus. They are start losing a focus on you as a teacher, okay? So or perhaps the student doesn't know how to react or understand what you've been delivered. So interruption will reduce once the routine is established. So what you can do when they start lose a focus, like I said, they have a lot of things that you can done in order to catch back your student attentions. Okay, giving assignments, student might be talking or grumbling when assigned homework. Oh, this is quite common, wasn't it? Every single time that we're going to say, okay, class, today is to discuss about your assignment. Then you can hear the sounds at the back of the classroom saying that, oh, assignment again. Okay, so as a teachers, we know this is a compulsory for us to give the assignments, because where should we get the marks from in order to pass the student for the class? So how are you going to do? Way to prevent and reduce, include the homework assignment to the end of the class activity, not at the beginning. You come to the class saying that, okay, guys, by end of the class, I'm going to give you assignment. Don't mention that at all at the beginning, because once you do it, the students start to lose focus, okay? So tell them how the homework is related to the current lessons or maybe the next lesson and so on and so forth. Get them know, saying that, okay, by submitting these assignments, you're going to help you to blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Or maybe this assignment going to carry you this amount of marks. So if you don't submit the assignments, they have a higher chances that you might going to fail the subjects. Maybe a bit scared them, but then that's how you're going to get their attention in doing your assignment and homework accordingly. Use motivation comment in the feedback and also previous homework. Why? Because they are still students. Even though they are not primary or secondary students, they still need an encouragement from the teachers, from the lecturers, okay, saying that, okay, you are doing a good work. This is one of the good assignments, blah, 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 and so on, so forth. Do not use a complete them on time or finish them all, okay? Whenever you assign assignments, definitely you're going to give a deadline saying that the submission date is going to be here and here and so on. Okay, fine, the submission date, but then to ask them to complete them on time or finish them all and so on is kind of like a harsh words, okay, for them to do. So bring in closure, closing comments should keep the student activity engaged until the end. So what we can suggest throughout every session, class session that you can have, do the summary of the class, saying that, okay, for today's classes, we already done that and so on and so forth and so on. The summary and review of the key content is basically going to help you toward doing the next assignment. So that's how you are able to bring the engagement of the students towards the class session. Means by focusing on today's classes, it's going to help you for the next. Whatever next that you might going to have. Perhaps the next is basically the test. Perhaps the next is basically the midterm. So whenever that you mention them, they are basically, I'm not going to say it's going to scare them. No, it's not going to scare the students, but it's going to bring the more attention to the students, saying that, okay, I need to focus for today's classes because of this. Okay, cool. Oh, 10-minute breaks. Am I going too fast? Am I? Shall we take a 10-minute breaks, or you wanted to continue so we are able to finish the sessions? What say you, everyone? What say you? Okay, so we're going to continue. How about that? Is that okay for you guys? Okay, because I only have another, I can say half an hour before we are able to finish for today training. Okay, cool. Okay, let's continue whatever that we have. So we're going to skip this 10-minute breaks. Okay, cool. This is not supposed to be on the slide. I'm sorry. Or perhaps I'm going too fast. Okay, classroom management style. So when we talk about classroom management style, congruent communication expressed is basically the humanist traditions. When we talk about the classrooms, right, it's quite common to understand how we're going to manage the classroom. Most of the time, as a teacher, we only understand that's a traditional learning, which is congruent communication. We express and message, communicate with the students, accept how students feel about the circumstances, rather than argue about them. Avoid using label and use praise and also cautions. To understand the students, the first thing that we need to do is basically to understand that they are also a human. Okay, we are human. As a teacher, definitely we are human, and our student also a human. So they have feelings. Okay, whenever that we are using the harsh word, they might going to get hurt. Okay, so that's why whenever we're going to suggest, whenever that you are dealing with the students, as much as you can, stop using the harsh word for them. Okay. Elicit the cooperation. Teacher discuss with the student on a problem whenever they have the problem. If you are able to solve them, especially for the study, for the subject that you teach, go ahead and help them. Communicate anger. The teacher express to the frustration. And also, I feel disappointed with your presentation versus your presentation is basically sloppy. Okay, so like I said, as a teacher, when you find out that your students are not able to deliver as much as you expect them, are we allowed to have the anger? Are we allowed to feel disappointed and so on and so forth? So like I said, we are also a human. Okay, we are not a robot. We are not a machine and so on and so forth. Definitely, we also have a feeling. So is that okay for you to express your frustration to the student? The answer is yes, you are allowed to express the frustration, but in a professional way possible. Whatever that you are able to communicate with them in your best professional way, go ahead and make them understand how frustrated you are toward whatever that the student are submitting to you on their assessment. Okay, cool. Okay, competitive environment with a limit reward create inattentive frustration and boredom. Create mutual agreement, set of a rule with the student, have a private discussions with disruptive students, and follow through a time of punishment excuse me, until the correction is made. So how you can handle it, like I said, if you figure out they have some misbehavior of student that you cannot accept at all on the specific one student or group of students, what you can do is basically have a private discussion rather than you're going to punish them in front of everyone in the classroom. You're going to ask them to do a private discussion and ask what's wrong with you, why you're not able to attend my class, or why you are not able to focus in my class, and so on, so forth. It kind of what we have a mutual agreement between the lecturer and the students. Okay, do remember, we are not trying to become a favorite lecturer. If you can to become a favorite lecturer, go ahead and do it, but as much as we can, a likable lecturer. So likables mean people going to like you because you are nice to them. People are like you because your class is fine. Whenever that you are able to become a lecturer that they like, it's going to be more fun for them and also for you. It's easy on the both sides. So means it's easy for you to teach the student in the classroom and easy for the student to accept you as their teacher and learn accordingly in your class. So that's what we call a two-way agreement. Apply behavior analysis traditions. Behavior modification reinforcement is required when the teaching a new behavior. Positive reinforcement, good behavior is rewarded. So, of course, like I said again, we are humans. Whenever that we see a good behavior from our student, we're going to praise them, saying that, oh, you are doing good today. Is that okay to do so? Definitely. Okay, like I said, they're also a human. The student also a human with a feelings. So once in a while, whenever you find out they are basically behave good, even better than before, go ahead and give the compliment as much as they need it. Negative reinforcement, not a punishment, is an action to end or remove unpleasant condition when the student pursues certain behavior. For example, pause the lesson when the students start not paying attention. Okay, like I said, the most common things that we might going to face in the classroom is basically we find out when the students start lose their attentions. I mean, like they are not within you anymore, even though their body in the classroom, their mind is already somewhere else, okay, perhaps in their phones and so on and so forth. So what you can do, whenever they start losing a focus, don't punish them, saying that, okay, I want everyone to look at me, to listen at me, is going to even bore them. So what you can do, okay, class, rather than we are basically going to focus on the slide, why don't we do something else? Why don't we play a games a bit? Why don't we do some discussions and so on and so forth? Then the classroom into something more effective and more fun for them. Intermittent reinforcement to maintain good behavior after the student have reached acceptable behavior, based on the attendance and completion of the homework. Behavior is normal and normally controlled by the stimulus, such as sounds, noisy room, sign, light off indicating the start-stop of an activity, and people, student will be well-behaved, well-observer, walking, okay? So the condition of the classroom also generally going to play a part, which is the environments. When you come to the class and start opening the slide, they turn off the light. What do you think when after you turn on the light back? Definitely all the students are basically sleeping behind the class, okay? So step improve a learner behavior, identify the appropriate behavior you want to implement and inappropriate behavior that you want to change. So in the group of setting of the students, basically, generally as teachers, like I said, we are able to identify which students are basically what we call a good students, which students are basically not so good students. So the teacher, right? Because like I said, we are so used on teaching, we are so used to dealing with this group of people. As soon as we step into the classroom, we can see thoroughly. So what you can do, you're going to manage them accordingly. Perhaps you might going to say, okay, I'm going to have more focus on this group of students because their attention in my class is basically less than 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, I need to do something. So that I'm able to get the attentions accordingly. Okay, identify for both behavior and make necessary changes in the classroom environment. Like I said, whenever that you are able to identify, do change the environment. Okay, how? Like I said, we are basically being occupied with all the necessary learning activity that available in the online, in the internet. Make it use, make it happen so that your classroom become more fun. Identify the student reason for inappropriate behavior. If you may able to ask the student why you are behave like that, why you are coming late to the class, why you are not paying attention, is that something else more fun in your phone rather than focusing on my classroom? Go ahead and do it. Like I said, it's not a punishment, it's basically to identify what is basically makes the student not able to focus on the class, and create procedure to enforce appropriate behavior that you want to replace the inappropriate behavior. Whatever the strategy that you might going to have in order to manage your classroom, go ahead and do it. Okay, as long as it's not going to harm everyone in the class. Okay, it's a good enough that way. Classroom management traditions emphasize critical role of preventing a management classroom. Effective classroom manager is devote extensive time before or during the few weeks to plan and organize classroom activity, provide rules and routine methodology, clear instruction, acceptable behavior, and monitoring their compliance, inform the consequences for breaking the rules and enforce them consistently. So what we need as a teacher is basically preparation, a good preparation for the class. Saying that if you're going to come, you're going to have a class in a 2 days time. So maybe you can start to prepare yourself, saying that, okay, this group of students that I have is basically easy to lose their attention. So what I can do, I'm going to prepare here, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, and so on. So that you're going to have your own set of strategy in order to make the class more fun for the learners, which is the student. Take the best strategy from the 3 style. So this is basically what we call an alternative version on the classroom. We do have the authoritarian classroom, authoritative classroom, permissive classroom, and indulgent classroom. So what does this mean? The classroom is basically going to be set on the 3 different behavior and learners. The authoritarian, the teacher have more control, but less student involvement. If you want this set of the classroom, go ahead and do it. But then the more suggestion that we're going to have is basically to set on the authoritative classroom. More teacher control, more student involvement. Okay, the class is not just focusing on the teacher, which is you, us, that sit in front of the class, but it's going to be a two-way learning process. You teaching the student are also able to get involvement on the teaching process. So the authoritative is basically the most suggestions classroom management that we're going to do it. Permissive, we also have the class with the less teacher control, but then less student involvement. So this is the less chances that we wanted to handle our class. And indulgent is basically less teacher control, more student involvement. Can we do it on the indulgent? Yes, you can do it, not a problem. For example, you're going to initiate the group discussion, the student going to involve more. Perhaps you might going to just supervise, you're going to get into it once in a while, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's up to you which group of the classroom style that you might going to have within your class management. But what we always suggest is basically to do the authoritative classroom. You get more control as a teacher, and at the same time, the student also get more involvement. So it's a two-way progressive teaching and learning style. Okay, student misbehavior. Oh, this is a quite common to understand as a teacher. Does all of our students are basically a good student? They are good students, okay? Most of the time, they are a good student, definitely. But what makes them different is their behavior. of course, okay, how they behave in the classroom, outside the classroom, and so on, so forth. Misbehavior refer to inappropriate or disruptive action that prevent an effective learning experience in the classroom. Categories of this misbehavior we can see is a disruptions, talking, clowning, refuse to do works, even sleeping behind at the back of the class, truancy, absent without reason. Okay, absent without reason, suddenly the student are missing, not even coming to the class for weeks or maybe days. Physical and verbal abuse, abusive language, swearing, disrespectful. Do we have this kind of student in our learning process at the moment? We can say yes. Maybe not everyone, maybe just one between the millions that we have. Okay, once in a while we might going to come and face this type of student. And criminal, vandalism, theft, and drug. Okay, the criminal, we hope that we don't have any in this building, but if you happen to find one, please report to the right person, okay, for the criminal student. Okay, when we talk about the student misbehavior, once again, what is the most common student misbehavior you happen to have encountered before? Because I do believe every one of us might going to have a different experience when come to the dealing with the student behavior. Maybe you want to share for today's sessions, everyone? To get it? Okay, let's see what we have. What we have here. Okay. Playing with their phone, obviously. Can playing with their phone. Oh, I can't stand that. Noisy, definitely coming late for the class. Oh God, always. Okay, in every 5 students or maybe 10 students that we might going to have in the classrooms, one of them might going to come to the class all the time, doing other works on the laptop. Right? I cannot stand them. Okay, sometimes. So whenever we ask, what are you doing on the laptop? I'm taking a notes. Okay, not just a laptop nowadays. They have all the gadgets that somehow the people with our generations not able to know what type of gadget they might going to have. Walking in and out in the class, yes. Every 5 minutes, washroom, and so on. Okay, influence others to not to influence others not to ask questions. I'm also facing this type of behavior of the student. Latecomers, definitely. What else that we might going to have? Latecomers influence. Okay, that's quite a good sharing. Okay, cool. Okay, are we agree with all this misbehavior? Most of the time we are not agree, but like I said, the student that we are teaching is basically a human with a different set of behavior. Okay, means they are not coming in a one set of behavior. If they are coming in one set of behavior, it's much more easy for us to handle. But they are coming with a different versions, different style, different things, and so on and so forth, which is we have to handle them accordingly. Okay, so what you can do, okay, whenever that you are facing this type of the misbehavior within the student, like I said, maybe if possible, you can do one-to-one sessions with the students, asking them why you are always coming late to the class. Is there any problem? Is that you are staying far from the college? You are staying far from here, and so on and so forth. Or maybe if they keep on coming and out from the classroom, maybe they have some digestion issue on that particular day, then you need to figure out how to help them. Or if they keep on looking at the laptop, the phones, and all the gadget they might going to have, then you're going to turn the session into something that are more interactive for them. Okay, like I said, teachers at the current, I'm not going to say the current teacher that we have, okay, because I do believe most of us are basically, we are almost similar age. Okay, our generation, we are so used into the traditional classrooms, okay, which is the center of the class is basically the teacher. All of the students behind here is basically need to focus on the teacher. But then the current students, those are during the time that we are become learners last time, which is we are the students. We're going to, the setting is more toward the classroom, traditional classroom, but then the current student that we have, the current generations, we cannot do the traditional classroom anymore. It's not going to say that it doesn't apply for to the current generation. It do apply, but not all the time. Okay, it do apply, but not all the time. If you're going to have like the 2-hour sessions of the classroom, maybe the first 1 hour is going to be the traditional classroom, which is you are teaching, the student need to focus on you. The next hour, you're going to give something else. They are more fun for them. They are more interactive for them. If they need to play with the phone, go ahead. Ask them to play with the phone, but in the learning setting. So means you're going to do a games, ask them a quiz online, whatever that you might going to have. Turn the classroom into something that are more interactive for them. They're more attractive so that they get more engagement within. Okay. Motive is basically to avoid the boredoms of the students. Yes, definitely. Attention seeking, avoiding word malicious. Okay, then causing excitement and display power and defensive mechanism. Okay, we are basically in power as a teacher? The questions, the answer is most of the time, yes. Okay, because we are a leader in the classroom. We are leading the class. So supposedly we are basically the one who going to command. But then dealing with the current student generation and behavior, we need to change our strategy, okay? So we are no longer a traditional teacher. We are basically a teacher that able to create a interactive learning classroom. We flip the classroom rather than traditional classroom into something that more fun for the student. So that at the same time, they are having fun in the class and also learning whatever that they need to learn on the specific subject and topic. So that's how you are able to handle the current generation. Strategy to address misbehavior, setting a clear, reasonable rules and enforcing them fairly. Build a rapport and mutual respect. Like I said, if you are able to become the lecturer or the teachers that they like on the certain set of the mutual respect, go ahead and do it. It's much more easy to handle them on that particular ways. Reprimand immediately, consistently and careful, firmly and calmly. Avoid confrontations, okay? As much as you can, avoid confrontation with the students, okay? Because it's going to scare them away. It's not that you cannot punish them. You can if they are basically misbehave, but then to have the strong confrontation is basically something that we are not suggest as for the current student because they are so fragile. Okay, I'm not going to say that whenever that you punish them, they're going to cry. Maybe if there is too hard punishment, but then we're going to strategize saying that, okay, we're going to confront them in other particular ways and strategy so that they can accept whatever that we might going to tell them, suggest to them. Reprimand privately, definitely, and avoid empty threat. Make examples, pairing and respectfully. Okay, so like I said, as a leader in the classroom, we are also going to set the example to the students. So we are the one that they're going to look for, and then hence show them that we are basically a leader, the one that going to command. Then they have to follow them. So they have to follow us accordingly. Misbehavior student in perspective, lesson are boring, lecture do not know how to teach, lecture have a weak discipline, and lecture make unfair comparison. Okay, so most of the time, one of the reasons why the student are not able to pay attention in the class is basically, we can say 50% is due to the lecturer. Okay, why? Perhaps the lesson is so boring. The lecturer doesn't know how to make the class more interactive and so on, so forth. Or maybe the lecturer basically have a low knowledge on the specific topic. Okay, I'm not going to say that we have to become more knowledgeable of this from the students, definitely, because we are a teacher, we are the one who teach the subject. But then once in a while, if you happen to get a question from the student saying that, doctor or sir or miss, can I ask you a question? And then those questions you are not able to answer due to the specific reason, means you also doesn't know the answer. You cannot tell the student, oh, I don't know the answer. Maybe you can Google it. Cannot at all. We don't suggest that at all. Why? Because if you're going to see that you doesn't know the answer for the specific question they ask, it's going to turn them off, saying that, oh, this teacher or this lecturer basically have low knowledge level. Okay, they're going to like mark you thing. The best thing that you can answer is basically is to get them saying that, okay, let me check with the question that you asked. I'm going to get back to you perhaps tomorrow or maybe shortly, and so on and so forth. If you are doing saying that, if you are doing so, the student going to wait for your answer perhaps later. The student going to wait for the answer. If you promise them tomorrow for the next classes, they're going to come to you and answer, and you're going to give the answer back. Meanwhile, since you are not knowing, go back to the office and do the Googles, okay? Do all the AI, the ChatGPT and so on and so forth, and get the answer accordingly. Because you cannot show the student that you doesn't know the answer for the specific questions. You cannot. Once the student know that you are basically doesn't know the answer to the question they ask, they're going to label you saying that, okay, this lecturer is basically not knowledgeable enough. This lecturer basically tak pandai. This lecturer blah, blah, blah. They're going to put you on the specific label. So don't do that. So again, if you are not able to answer the questions of that be given by a student in classroom, as much as you can, in your best professional way, tell them, I'm going to get back to you and give the correct answer or prepared answer for that question. Maybe later after the class, maybe tomorrow session, maybe whatever that you might going to have the suggestion to meet the student again. And meanwhile, you're going to Google for the answer. Okay, cool? Okay, lecture made unfair comparison. Okay, so this is basically those are things one doesn't want to do in the class. So means you compare the students between the next students, the good student between the not good students. Don't make a comparison. They're going to discourage them in the classroom because they can feel the unfairness. We doesn't want the student to feel the unfairness in the class, because as much as we can, we're going to treat the student equally. Either they are good, not so good, or average. Every student are basically should able to receive equal treatment from us, okay? Lecture should reflect on the classroom activity and planning, interaction with the student, and also action in the class. Again, like I said, in order to dealing with the current generation that we have of the students, we need to make the classroom more fun, interactive, so that they are able to pay attention to us accordingly as much as we need. Oh, let's have some fun. Kahoot time, okay? We are almost the end of the session. So, okay, I know that you are waited for me to finish the training, definitely. But before we're going to finish the training, just a quick fun for you, okay? Let's see what I have, okay. Give me a second. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, maybe you want to, okay, scan the barcode over there. We are almost there. We're almost there, okay, everyone? Okay. Okay, so everyone here? Everyone here? Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, let's start, okay? The question going to appear in the screen, then you need to pick the answer in your phone, okay, accordingly. Okay, let's do it. Oh, pandainya everyone. Wah, bagus lah. Oh, okay, hold on. Why I cannot? Okay, next. Oh, okay, Keys, you are number one. Which statements are the best to describe effective classroom management? Which one? Very well. I should finish the training by now. You guys are pandai already. Again. Okay. It looks like the same people on the top. I give you some tips how you're going to get into the first board. You need to click the answer fast. The fastest you get, the higher the marks is. A student challenge your authority during the class, how you should respond. Yeah, definitely stay calm and invite the student to share their view respectfully. Okay, like I said, on the current student generation, sometimes we have to agree they are more advanced when it comes to technology compared than us, our generations, right? Perhaps they might going to have a better idea. So whenever it happens, what you can do is basically to invite them to share. What is your opinion? What is your view? They have no harm as a teacher for us to do that. Oh, okay. Catching up, everyone? Okay, the next one. You notice two students whispering and laughing repeatedly. Best strategy? Use proximity and eye contact to remind them. That was the best answer. Okay, now care to share with the class? Oh, got it. Can you do that? I also do that sometimes. Okay, just to tell you, I also do that. I mean, like, you want to share with the class, whatever, but then that's not the best suggestion that we can give. What you can do is basically make the eye contact to the students, saying that, oh, I'm looking at you now, so you better stop. Okay, the next one. Few more questions left. One student dominates every discussion, leaving the other quiet and disengaged. What the most effective strategy that you can do? Very well. Acknowledge their input and invite others to share. Definitely. It always happens in the classroom, right? Whereby we always have this one, what we call as a good students. Whenever that we ask question, is the only student that going to answer everything. So how you going to manage them? Like I said, yes, you're going to acknowledge the students' ideas and input, but then get the rest also to get into the discussion. So that's how you're able to get everyone to engage in the sessions. Okay. Kids, you are basically getting into the highest scoreboard, kids. Okay, next, during a debate, a student makes sarcastic comment toward another student. The room becomes tense. What should you do as a teacher? Very well. Address the command and calmly and remind everyone of respectful communication, surely. Why? Because you're not going to make them fight in your class, okay? Definitely, what you can do is basically to manage their behavior. You receive multiple complaints about the student not contributing to group work. What your best first step? Sleeping partner in the group discussion, a group assignment. It's always happen, a sleeping partner. What you can do as a teacher, obviously meet the group privately and to hear all sides. Then after that, you decide what you can do on this one sleeping partner in the group. Either you wanted to give them marks accordingly, or you don't want to give a mark, or give another idea saying that this sleeping partner need to do another exercise, another assignment individually, and so on and so forth. So you make a command as a teacher, okay? Because it's your subject, it's your class. But then before that, listen to whatever that they might going to tell you. Okay, the next question, you almost there? What the hardest thing to manage during the class? Oh, which one? Okay, yes, the student, definitely a time. Maybe. Okay, one of you are basically pick a time to manage the time. Maybe you can always manage the time, but then the hardest to manage is basically the student. Again, like I said, they come with a different set of behavior. In the big group setting of the classroom, every one of your students are basically have a different set of behavior. Okay, it's easy if they come in the one set of behavior, it's easy for you to manage, but then since they are also a human like us, so those are basically the things become more challenging as a teacher. Okay, we get into the last questions. You are assigned a classroom beside construction site. Students struggle to focus during your lecture. What should you do? Complain and cancel the class, wasn't it? It's more the easiest options. Okay, use a microphone and or shift the more discussion-based activity, definitely. Okay, like I said, you are basically a leader to the class. Okay, you should know how to manage the class whenever they have environment become so tense, saying that they have interaction from the outside, interaction from the inside, and so on. Change the classroom accordingly so that the student might going to have more cooperative learning. Okay, we done. Let's see who's on the podium. Let's see. Oh, Shim, you are number 3. Number 2? Who are you? Number 2. Oh, hello, number 3. And the first one, I know who is this. The key thing. Yeah, great. Congratulations, who are basically on the podium. Okay, let's continue what we have left. Nothing much. We are basically moving to the summary. Okay, the recap for today's sessions. What we can conclude on today's classroom management sessions is able to create conducive and safe environment for the student to study and excel. Set a reasonable set of rules and implement them accordingly. Like I said, dealing with the current of students, do you need to set a rules? You can if you want, but then again, like I said, the more rules that you set to the students, the more neglecting they're going to become. So they start to neglect to come to the class and so on and so forth. What we can say is a reasonable set of rules. Let's say, for example, if your class are running 2 hours or 3 hours straight, perhaps on every 45 minutes, you might going to give a 10-minute break for the students for their toilet breaks, so for them to get whatever refreshment before they're going to continue the session and so on, so forth. Those are basically what we consider as a reasonable set of rules. Earn student respect by showing the commitment in your lessons, caring about their performance and well-being, treated them respectfully and address misbehavior tactfully. So that's basically the best strategy that we can do in order to manage our classroom accordingly. Yeah, we are done. Any questions, everyone? Any things that you wanted to ask or you wanted to share? Is that all good? Of course, you are also a student for today, right? Definitely, I'm not going to get any questions. Okay, so if don't have anything, I guess that's it for today's sessions. Maybe I'm going to meet you again on a couple weeks for another session for the asset trip. So like I said, if you have anything regarding on how to manage the classroom, the student behavior, not saying the student behavior, don't come to the teaching and learning center and tell us about your student behavior. Go ahead and meet the head of school instead. Okay, but then if you wanted to have any idea or even the slide for today, you can always welcome to contact us in the teaching and learning center people and student, the colleague that we have here. Thank you guys. I'm going to see you again in a couple weeks. Okay, bye. Thank you for today's sessions.